I was a registered nurse for about 10 years, just over 10 years. And I sat down with this nurse and she was close to retirement. And I asked her, what are you still doing here? Because it was a brutal night. I was exhausted. She was exhausted. And she said, Ryan, if I work 2 more years, I get $500 more a month from my pension. I bought an investment property about 3 weeks later that cash flowed $600.
Wow.
So that shifted my mindset a little bit. And then I did a few more investments and I didn't want to pay my realtor anymore. So I got my real estate license while working a night shift. Again, coming from healthcare, you don't kind of wing a lot of stuff. And I translated that into real estate.
Hi, my name is Maude and I'm on a mission to empower realtors with cutting-edge insights, success stories, and actionable strategies from the top minds in real estate. Welcome back to Sold Right Away. And in this episode series, we solve real estate marketing challenges in real time. And that's why I've brought on Ryan McLean from Keller Williams Co-Elevation. Ryan shared his background from before real estate to becoming a realtor and now being a broker owner of a brokerage. Ryan helps realtors putting systems in place in their business for them. So that's a very interesting episode for all realtors to hear. Let's get to my chat with Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on the episode today. Tell us, how did you arrive to real estate?
Thank you for having me, Maude. So how did I arrive real estate? I was a registered nurse for about 10 years, just over 10 years. And I was working in the ICU one night, and there was a nurse that had been there that I worked with for a long time. And we had an incredibly just crazy night. I worked in a cardiovascular ICU, and it was the night of my career. It was just one of those crazy, crazy nights. And at the end of it, after 12 hours of just running, I sat down with this nurse and she was close to retirement. And I asked her, what are you still doing here? Because it was a brutal night. I was exhausted. She was exhausted. And she said, Ryan, if I work 2 more years, I get $500 more a month from my pension. She was 63 and she needed to get to 65. And I just thought that was crazy to work 2 more years and the insanity that we were working for $500 a month. So I bought an investment property about 3 weeks later that cash flowed $600.
Wow.
So that shifted my mindset a little bit. And then I did a few more investments and I didn't want to pay my realtor anymore. So I got my real estate license while working a night shift.
Yeah.
And about the time I finished my license, I was ready to make a move and quit my job and jumped into real estate full time, which I don't recommend, by the way, but it did work out okay.
Yeah, that's huge. Jumping 2 feet in from a secure job, it's secured, well paid job. So congrats, I guess. How long ago was that?
Oh, that was almost 20 years ago. I'm thinking about 19 now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So 20 years now in real estate-ish. What was a defining moment for you at the beginning? Even though from two different complete industries.
People say that, although I do believe that, it's a service industry. And, you're both industries, you're working incredibly hard for people. Their outcomes are what matters. As realtors, we sacrifice a lot. We don't care about ourselves. We do so much for our clients. So there's a lot, stress, families, there's a lot of similarities. Real estate's not life or death, although people think it is at times. And that was life and death. So I think that prepared me for that high level of stress. So there was a lot of similarities that helped my success. And I had built up a fair amount of trust in the healthcare community. I'd been a nurse almost 10 years and I'd worked in all the hospitals in Hamilton and Oakville, Burlington, and built enough of a database that when I made that transition out, the people that knew me through that career trusted me with their largest assets as well. So,
Love it. Yeah, you bring in the people aspect, the caring aspect from one industry to the next. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then when you were jumping in real estate, did you regret? Did you what was the emotion there?
Well, my ex-wife, she was 3 months pregnant with our second. So we had a 9 month at home, 9 month old at home. She was 3 months pregnant, and I quit. Came home and told her I quit. So, uh, and she said, "You got 6 months to go make some money, or you need to go back to a job." And so I
Right.
was pretty motivated.
Yeah.
Work ethic has never been an issue for me. Working hard has never been a problem. And I worked hard, and there was some luck, and got a bunch of deals in the first 6 months, and just never looked back.
Yeah. People trusted you. You had got some luck, but everything together, and you got a success story.
I do. Now, when I help other people out of roles and jobs and families they have to support, I don't recommend that path. We often do a strategy and make sure they're replacing their income before they leave, just so that they can avoid some of the stress that I probably went through.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Totally.
and it was a good market at the time. So
Yeah, we'll go deeper on that, but that's an interesting point. What made you successful as a realtor now that you can think back about that?
I think what made me successful is a lot of the same traits that make a lot of realtors successful. Is you are client focused. You do a lot. You're not afraid of work. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people get into real estate because unlimited income, make your own hours, and that hasn't been my experience. And for most successful agents, they work a lot. So relationships are what matters, and focusing on the client relationship, um, wanting their outcome to be the priority. And if it didn't make sense for them, then I wasn't going to be pushy on that either. So I think making your client your priority, not afraid to go do the hard work, which is obviously generation, which nobody loves, uh, but when you do it in this space, when you figure out real estate, there is no better industry with more
Mhm.
opportunity than we have here. So understanding that, I was willing to do pretty much whatever it took.
Yeah, love it. And the hard work was no big deal at that point because you knew.
And I had another baby on the way, and there was no option. I had to succeed.
Nice, nice. What's one valuable lesson that you've learned through your process of switching and to building your business in real estate?
Well, I'll tell you, it was a little shocking. One of the things that kind of caught me off guard about real estate was in healthcare. You may not always get along with everybody you work with. However, there was always a common goal, which was patient outcome. And you might disagree with someone else's path to get there. However, we all had the same goal. In real estate, not necessarily the case. So, pretty early on, I had some blind spots, and I had some agents do things that I just wasn't prepared for, and opened my eyes to the fact that we really need to understand the entire journey of a transaction and how to operate and protect our clients.
Mm.
And so I learned that lesson pretty early. And because of that, I really focused on doing things properly. Again, coming from healthcare, you don't kind of wing a lot of stuff because, there's a path that has the best patient outcome, and you don't cut corners because that's what you want. And I translated that into real estate. I stayed very education focused, and I've always been focused on learning the best path and gold standards and who's doing what, and what's getting the best outcome for their business. So, I kind of really focused on that for real estate. But in that first year, you really just got to work really hard, have unlimited conversations with as many people as you need so that you can make enough money to stay
Mm.
in the business. Uh,
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
and then over time, you get to learn how you want to run your business. But in that first year or two, you just got to do whatever it takes to make enough money to stay.
I love that methodology that you brought to from nursing to real estate, saying like having systems and procedures to follow. What are systems and procedures that you built right away when you started in real estate?
Well, I think probably everything. My old team made a shirt for me and a cake actually on my birthday, and it both said, "Is there a system for that?" Because
Oh,
I
love
used to I used to say that a lot, and I think again that comes from I want to understand from start to finish the plan to get the best outcome. So I'm not making it up on the fly, although I'm happy to do that if I need to, because I'm a realtor. Uh,
now.
now,
I'm glad
now,
you did.
uh, and so knowing what you're going to do before you do it, um, having a plan is important. You know,
Mhm.
ultimately, a system is ensuring that there's consistency. In this business, it can be consistency for an experience for your client. It could be consistency in a listing process or a buyer process, so you don't forget things and then have to go back and maybe cause problems for your business. So, knowing what you're going to do, knowing what you're going to do every day, it just makes the day a lot easier, a lot less stressful. I prefer that. I know the best days when I was selling was I just followed my model. I just got up, lead generated for 2 to 3 hours, ate quickly, and then was straight into appointments. And really didn't have a lot of time for drama or problems because I was just following the system.
Love it. Love it. Focusing for working on your systems and following your procedures and following your systems.
And learning from others. Again, I have no ego around. Like, if there's someone else that's doing something better,
Mhm.
I'm happy to do that way. I don't need to do it my way to I want to do the easy way. I think being a little looking, I don't want to say lazy, but because I do work hard, but I don't want to waste energy. So if
Yeah.
there's a easier way, a more efficient way, a way that gets better results, I'm happy to do that than whatever way I was currently doing.
Now you were a realtor, you built your success and your business, and then you became a broker owner of a real estate brokerage. Now, what do you see when you're taking agents on, or what do you see in terms of like helping agents in their business?
Again, I do believe this is the best industry in the world when you get it right. Uh,
No.
and so when I'm working with agents and I get to see agents in my office and agents in the industry, I see potential. I just see people that could be living bigger, better lives, more financially stable than they currently are. And it's most of the time, it's not the fact that there's lack of effort. Um, so, as a broker owner, I like to see agents that want to grow and who are coachable and willing to learn and are willing to do the work. Again, this is an industry that it's it comes with a lot of work until you understand the efficiencies of it and you get some leverage in your business. Until then, you're everything. If you're wearing all the hats, you're wearing the CEO hat, the lead gen hat, the listing agent, buying agent, administrator, bottle washer. If you don't have leverage, then you wear all the hats. And the goal is to get people into enough production so they can start to leverage that off.
Yeah. And what's the number one thing you do when you sit down with a new agent? What do you look at?
It's a good question. I've learned that I really can't bet on agents who's going to win, like horses. I don't know who's going to win the horse race. Uh, I do know that the agents that are willing to be uncomfortable and willing to do the lead generation and the conversations and willing to learn those skills, they're willing to do the work. Agents that are looking for the shortcuts, especially at the beginning, before they're making enough money to fund their life. Once you're funding your life, then it becomes about how do I get shortcuts in my life so I can spend more time doing things that I'm passionate about, and that could be family or recreation or whatever that is, and finding the efficiencies and cutting corners and working less is important. But at the beginning, when you haven't funded your life yet, agents need to be able to work hard or at least focused. I know some of the agents I know that have lives that are demanding and multiple kids and family events and all these things that happen. That doesn't mean they can't be successful. It just means they have to be very purposeful with their time and really not waste it.
Nice. Yeah.
Uh, you want an agent who's going to take this seriously and run their business, because this is their business. They're the CEO of their own business. Is going to take it and do the things that are necessary to run a business and not just kind of dabble.
Hmm. Nice. And then let's say you're sitting with an agent that has been doing business for a while. They're somewhat successful. They're happy with their success, but they have no systems whatsoever. Where do you start?
So so obviously we're in a bit of a market shift right now,
Yeah.
and Gary Keller tells us that in a market shift, it exposes all bad habits.
Oh.
So in 2021, we at the beginning of 2022, agents were generally making more money than they ever had. You could get some bad habits and it wouldn't affect you that much. The last 2 years, I've seen some of the agents that I've respected for years and decades, and who are struggling.
Mm.
And it's not because they're not great agents; they're amazing agents. Uh, their habits of inconsistency are really showing up in this market, and without those systems to support them, they're doing all the work by themselves. And in 2008, 2009, we had a little bit of a blip in the markets, but it didn't really last that long. So agents had the stamina to just go really hard through that and run as fast as they needed
Yeah.
and get to the other side. What I've seen in the last 2 years is a lot of agents who don't have systems, who are now having to do everything that they weren't doing before. They're really tired. It's a little frustrating and a little demoralizing. And sometimes they don't see, um, they don't see the path back to the great times when they were really enjoying the career and the industry. So that's really where I see the opportunity to help them. You know, uh, Having been in leadership and out of transactions for about 10 years now, I've been able to coach some of the top agents in Canada. We have one of the top agents in Canada in our office,
Wow.
and get to work with her and learn from her and coach her. And really, up until about a year ago, my goal, or the way I approached that conversation, was really to coach, inspire, bring systems, support those agents in whatever they needed so they could succeed. And that's because that's why I'm here to help other agents win. That's why I love this job. When I can help an agent double, triple their business, it changes their life.
Yeah.
Uh, and I realized that if I just did some of the systems for them, I could help more people. So about 6 months ago, the office really focused on, building the systems that agents should be building in their business. That should have built them 10 years ago. They never did, which is fine.
Yeah.
And now we just help give them opportunity. And when they know what they want, we just build it for them, and they can continue to focus on what they want, which is their clients. And now they have the systems and models in their business running in the background, instead of trying to do it for a 10th time. That's not going to work. Um, yeah. So there's a book called Who Not How,
Hmm.
and it talks about anything that we are procrastinating about, anything we're not getting done in our business, and we keep thinking, how can I get this done? I've tried 7 different ways, and how am I going to do it? The book talks about that. It's not a how you're looking for; it's a who.
Who?
So I used to try and be the person that would help them with the how, and now I'm just going to be the who and help them get it done. So really more as a partnership.
Yeah, I love it because we know realtors most often they're really good at their business, they're really good at people and at the real estate part of it, but not as systems. And then even if you sit down with them and tell them to do a system, they just wander off and want to go to the shiny thing that are keeping them busy. So by doing it for them, you really, really, really helping them.
Well, I mean, to be a realtor, to choose this path of no guaranteed income, the market fluctuates, the governments make choices, and it all impacts our futures. To know that the majority of agents live pretty much check to check or quarter to quarter. There is no pension. There's no benefits. There's no disability unless you're paying for it. You give up weekends and evenings and kids' birthdays, and you give up so much in this business that you really need to get those systems so that you can build the business to get the benefit of this business. And
Mm.
that's some predictable income. That's some predictability in your business. That's enough, and that's not just making enough so that you can, buy the car and the boat and the cottage, but to put away for the future and support your parents if you need to, support the kids into whatever they're going to choose to do. We really need to have, my goal is to really help agents move from transactional agents into business owners, and be able to live the life that they should, because we do give up so much.
Yeah.
So that's what we've decided to do, and the results have been, not surprising but significant, even in this market. A lot of the agents that we're working with that have been in the business 5, 10, 15 years, that have really good databases, who they love but maybe not communicated with at the highest level. Once we We help them. They get to a la carte that experience for them. So here's all the things that you could be doing to maintain that relationship, and what would you like that to look like. They pick it, they choose what they want that experience to look like, and then we just build it for them and implement it for them, and their databases just come alive.
I love that. Let's share a little bit more about those success stories. So, what do you who can you think of someone you sat at the table with, build that systems for them? What did they get out of it?
Well, I think what they get first is some peace of mind. I
Mm,
think that most agents know that we're never going to get everything done, and we go to sleep, still running that list in our
yeah.
head of all the things that we didn't get done today, we need to do tomorrow, and we know clarity is power. So if we can take a lot of that off their plate, they know it's running exactly the way they wanted it to, and give them exactly what they need to do every day. Again, that was my best day. Is I knew who I needed to talk to before I got to the office.
Love
I
it.
knew everything that was going to happen until someone called me. But other than that, I knew the day, and so we give them that clarity, and then they do their best to follow it,
Mhm.
which is not anywhere close to perfect, but when someone has had all those relationships and they're a great realtor, and they've worked for their clients for years and years and years, when we, like I said, when we start to give them the experience they want, that the realtor wants for them, they just re-engage at such a high level. And so the first step after we do this, and actually, so I mean, I can tell you, a dozen agents that have been, Ryan, I've been trying to build this for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, never got it built, and in 30 days it's running. And
Wow, that's
so
amazing.
we move them past that, and then they just end up getting lost into all the conversations in their database that of course turn into either transactions, appointments, referrals, all those things that they want. Right now in the market being shifted, I see a lot of realtors that are getting lost in, you know which can happen anytime, but really getting lost in conversations, spending time with people that are not as motivated as we need them to be, and therefore they don't have a lot of time to go find the motivated.
Yeah.
And this system, really, when they start to get into all these conversations, they start to identify those motivated again, and they're getting listings, they're getting closings, and some of the people I'm working with are having their best year after some of their worst years.
Wow.
And it's not me doing the work, it's just me helping them uh, operate in their sweet spot in their business, and then coach them to the next challenge, which is now I'm so busy that uh, I don't
I
want
need
to take any more
system.
listings. Yeah,
Yeah, getting so busy that they need the next step of systems that you have built and that you can build.
that we help them with. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we are a partner in this journey to build with them, instead of just a platform for them to go operate their business. We
Mhm.
really see our business as a partnership,
Yeah.
and so they call. I get calls around this. How do we do this? And instead of just coaching people through it, it's okay. Well, let's meet and let's get it done tomorrow before you leave the office,
Wow.
and we bring the team to that. So
Nice. Nice. Getting the step done for them. I can see too how agents sometimes they plan to do lead generation and they're just going and they don't know what to do or they're thinking and then they get overwhelmed and then they move on and go do something else. So having the system, like you said, knowing who to call before you get to it, gives you the clarity that you need.
So actually, I have a question for you, and this has been my observation in this journey.
Nice.
Is over the years, I know you've been in the business for as long as I have. Um, I believe that what worked for agents 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the amount of connection that we needed with our relationships, uh, the level of connection has gone up over years.
Yeah.
Um, I think that the world has gotten noisier and more interactive, and obviously there's a million apps, and therefore there's a million other distractions, and uh, to help to expect that agents are going to be able to build these intricate systems that really are necessary for today's business, which wasn't 15 years ago, but it is really necessary for today. I think they need help. I think they need someone to support them, and we're the implementation part. obviously having someone like yourself as the marketing part is really required for those that don't have those skills. What has been your experience over the last 10 or 15 years in in what's required for agents to maintain their relationships in their database?
Yeah, I love it. I don't often get asked questions, so I love it. Uh, 10, 15 years ago, completely different. 10, 15 years ago, we're talking about like newspaper, kind of how to get to people's home. Now, I would say the last 5 years was social media, obviously, Instagram, TikTok. And then now there's been the last 6 months is like the noise is getting harder, louder, the AI taking over lots of the content. So it makes that people produce more content. So how do you stand out? The answer is clarity on why you're posting. Let's say you take social media, why you're posting what you're posting. What's the purpose behind it? Just not just posting all the time with no purpose. It has to be, you have to have clarity on why. That's super important. But also having like consistency, consistency in your messaging, in your wording, your keywords. Like we do a huge keyword analysis now to be sure that we're not all over the place. Like somebody that focuses on a niche is super important. So consistency, clarity on the purpose, but also having your niche of who you're targeting. It can't be everyone. Even though real estate realtors get really scared when they hear, "Oh, I do business with everyone." You do, but the amount of time, effort, and money that you spend on your marketing should be targeted to a specific niche, and
Yeah.
then you do business with everyone. But at least so that you're cutting through the noise of all all the realtors. There's a lot more realtors now than there was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the social media noise is louder in the last 6 months, I would say, for sure.
Wow. So I wasn't aware in the last 6 months it changed that much.
Oh yeah, yeah. The AI. I would say last year to 6 months ago, like beginning of the year already. I see a huge, huge change, like December to today, on
Wow.
the noise and the way people are posting and what they're posting and all of that. So yeah,
Well, I mean, we know if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one.
yeah,
And the depth of the relationship that you have with your database, with the people in your world, will determine your success in real estate. So here's something that I've really noticed in the last, after getting out of, so I was the regional director of KW Canada for the last 4 years and got to run Keller Williams Canada at the corporate level. So I got to
cool.
learn a lot from some people that have done some great things and be in a room with Gary Keller every month. Um, but stepping back into the brokerage side and really helping agents on a day-to-day level, I've really noticed something that I think has always been there, but it wasn't as required because of the noise, and that is how we build relationships with our database. And
Yeah,
I think most realtors are not necessarily, they're not super excited about scripts and learning the skills and the words that we need to use. However, there's it's about how do we bring people closer, how do we build a relationship with someone. Most realtors are pretty good at asking people who are motivated the important questions: when do you want to move, what's your budget, why is that important to you, all those things. So agents learn those skills, but we know that only about 5% of the population on average is in the buying window at any one time, which means is 95% of the people you're going to speak to are
they're just
not looking to transact, they're not
yeah.
looking to move. And so how do you build a relationship with that person that isn't transactional?
Mm-hmm.
and and I don't know that most agents know how to do that. So on one side we have the transactional agent, which where their skills are. On the other side, we have we're not transactional at all, but we're just going to kind of be chummy with people or friends. And I know what most people don't have a lot of room for hundreds more friends. So how do we have those conversations in the middle and become the professional realtor that people like to talk to?
Yeah, yeah. So
And so we
so
focus our database management and our connections, and we focus on that. Is how do you have great conversations with someone that's not about getting them to move or want to ask. You do have to ask because it is your job. However, the conversation can't be about that.
no, it has to be educational about everything. It could be also, so there's like two ways to look at it. There's if you're not dealing with transactional people, you're dealing with educational, informational. So at that point, you're giving out information. You just being memorized, being remembered as, hey, I know this guy's super knowledgeable because he told me about this and that I didn't know about. But reminding people that you are a realtor is super important because they forget. Oh, I didn't know you were still in the business. Because if you don't have a listing for a while, you have nothing to talk about. So having really like strategy behind all your posting of the why, like I talked about, super important. Being educational, but also having like some sort of vibe that is yourself that people will
Mhm.
relate to. How? Why would I relate to you versus somebody else if everybody's giving me the real estate market update of the month for Hamilton and what's the average price of the houses? Then what makes me want to see your update versus somebody else's update? So
Information used to be the commodity that agents used to maintain their relationship. And we know that that's not the case anymore because all the information is out there.
yeah.
When I first start coaching and supporting agents around this conversation is how do you talk to 95% of your database that's not looking to purchase right now without being pushy about trying to get them to purchase and they don't know. I just ask them, do you have any friends that you haven't spoken to in a long time? Well, I think most people can say yes.
Yeah.
So you need to start with that conversation and just say, hey, how are you? How are you doing? How's the family? You know,
Mm-hmm.
these are
Word.
people that are in your world that you have a relationship with. You should know them and you should care about them and ask things that are not transactional. And then when you build that rapport and you give some value, now it's just about, is there anything I can help you with?
Mm-hmm.
And when we work on that, people get a lot more comfortable with the calls.
That's huge. Yeah. And
Well,
it's nurturing, having like a nurturing strategy uh, from your database. Like whoever made it to your database, there was a reason you had a connection at some point. But having a name is not nurtured, it's just having a name
yeah.
and then forgetting about it.
So there's two questions I ask realtors when I first sit down with them who are looking, if they want to grow their business and they want to make some changes. The first is, and again, I'm going to assume that all realtors are amazing and their databases love them and will use them. The
Yeah.
majority of them will use them to buy, sell, or invest because I believe that's true. So the first question I ask people is, what, if you have 100, 200, 500, 1,000 people in your database, how many transactions a year are you getting out of that?
Mm.
And most people who don't have great systems are getting less than 10%, and a lot are
Yeah.
getting less than 5% transactional return on their databases. And we know that there's significant ability to improve that. The second question I ask is, how many referrals are you getting from your database that you get transactions from? And when we go down that path of being able to identify that there's a big gap, uh, they're open to kind of learning about how do I fill that without having to try and do it myself. The second question is I ask, because often when I'm speaking with agents, they're in a little discomfort. They want more transactions, which is why they're speaking to me or being coached. Is I want more leads. Everybody
More
wants
leads.
leads, leads, leads,
Yeah.
leads. So here's the question I ask: is if I, right now in the market, let's say that leads converted at 1%. It's pretty low, but let's say that's true. Right now, that's down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So most teams and agents that I'm following, they're converting at 50% they were pre-shift. So if you were getting a 1% return prior to that, or you're getting a 5% return prior to that,
Yeah.
most people are getting about 50%. So you have to double the amount of leads to generate the same amount of transactions. And here's my question is, so whatever that number, if that's 100, 200, 500 leads that you need, and you're going to go get one, two, or three transactions, 4 or 5 transactions, that's great. What happens to the other 495 leads?
Yeah.
Not very much. And we know that to go generate hundreds of leads and work your way through the qualifications process and finding the people that are motivated and then helping them choose you and then helping them go transact, the amount of work that goes into that is just incredible to allow the hundreds of other people that just weren't in the buying window to just move on and not build a relationship with. So the automation in your database, once built, it nurtures all those relationships. While you go do the 1, 2, 3, 5 transactions, the other relationships get continued to nurture so that you get their business in the future.
Yeah. You can double and triple that way by just continuously nurturing your own database.
And when I show people that and help them understand that, yes, you're getting fed today by lead generating and getting those leads, but you're missing out on hundreds of percent increase over the years by not having your database nurture those relationships. And it really needs to be automated, because as
Yeah.
soon as realtors get busy, they stop
Yeah,
all of
that's
this,
totally true.
all the things, because they care so much about their clients and they're doing everything for them. So,
Mhm.
uh, it's not for you. It's not for everybody. But for the agents that are looking to finally get a system in their database that allows them not just to give the experience to the people that are there already, but when you lead generate, be able to maintain those relationships going forward. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I totally get that. By using your systems, it takes control over the consistency, which is a huge pain that agents don't have, and then being exhausted by having to do it all. Those are two huge challenges and pains that realtors live day to day, and then they don't do anything. And a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, they still haven't done it.
Yeah, and that's where I found that the problem was actually implementation, not
Yeah,
selecting of the right system, building the right system. I'd done that so many times with so many dozens and dozens and dozens of realtors, to then not have it actually implemented for any length of time in their business. So we just decided to take the implementation issue out and help them go run their business and grow their business.
I love it. I love it. This is so impactful for agents. I have a rapid fire section of the podcast where I
Okay.
ask rapid fire questions. Some of them we talked about, but that's okay. We'll go from the perspective of you helping realtors. What's the number one business process that realtors should not live without?
I'm just going to go back to a database system that's automated,
Yeah,
so that when you
love it.
get busy, it still happens.
Yeah. What's the best marketing strategy?
Best marketing strategy is to build the relationship.
Nice.
However
Very.
you need to do that, it's always about the relationship.
What are top income generating activities that every realtor should do?
Well, we all know this. We always know it's lead generation, but
Yeah.
that's really communication. So there's top lead generation strategies people can do. It's getting into enough conversations with people, that are open to the opportunity of a transaction.
Mhm.
This market right now, it opens its eyes. It's open the opportunity to certain types of buyers that can take advantage of this market right now, and they, realtors should be just looking for those types of people and having conversations, because people that are looking for their first time home buyer, anybody that wants to buy a condo, oh my gosh, like there's no better time than now. People that are looking to any type of significant upsize, homes over 3 million in Toronto are just, they're harder to sell, a lot harder to sell. But if your house is, you got into your home and you're in one and a half, $2 million, and you really wanted to this is the time.
Nice.
So it's about identifying the people that there's opportunity for, and just having great conversations with them
Hmm.
and see if you can help them.
Nurturing
Now,
them.
if you don't have enough of those people in your database, then we have to go build a lot of lead generation systems so that you get into those conversations, you put them in
Yeah.
your database and get their business in the future as well.
Yeah. Love it. Very, very good to touch on that. And then what are non-income generating activities that every realtor should drop?
Well, I would say anything that is not tied to a plan, a proven plan.
Mhm.
I think a lot of realtors spend a lot of their day just doing whatever they think they're going to do next.
Yeah.
And, some people would say social media is stop doing. That's not true. Social media is a way to speak to large groups of people. However, it's not, if it's not part of a overall plan, then it's probably not going to work. So
Mhm.
uh, anything that anything that's not part of a proven plan, just stop that.
Love it. Build your plan, follow your plan. That's it.
Well, I'd even say don't build. So I don't
Yeah.
like building things.
Do it.
Let's R&D. Let's rip off and duplicate a plan that's working right now.
Nice.
And what I know is most agents, if they do the activities that other successful agents are doing, they follow the same system as them, they get around the same results.
Love it. Not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Just do it based on your plan. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Well, there's lots of that. I guess the one that comes to mind is I had a coach tell me once that, Ryan, smart people learn from their mistakes,
Mm,
but wise people learn from other people's mistakes. So
nice.
stop being so smart.
Nice.
And So I figured that so he kind of backhanded me a little bit with a compliment, I think. And I'm like most realtors. I want to work hard. I go fast, and I don't always follow my plan if it's not absolutely clear.
Mm.
So that was the advice I got, and I do my best to follow that every day. I know the days that I follow my plan, I have far better results, far more productivity, and I actually feel better when I get home.
Yes, totally. I can relate 100% to that. Time blocking for me is so important.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you could leave for realtors who are struggling, frustrated, or exhausted right now?
So we never succeed at a high level on things that we're not good at. If you look at everybody that's succeeded at a high level, they've done it through something that they enjoy, if not love, and they're good at. So realtors
Mm.
are often very good at helping people, very good at identifying challenges and pouring in and doing all those things. What was the question again?
What's the advice you would leave for realtors who are
So
frustrated and exhausted?
yeah, so there's a gap in their business that is likely not to be the thing that they love or that they're really good at,
Mm.
and and identify that gap, and you got to fix it. However you need to do it, likely a who do you need in your world right now that will help you significantly improve wherever that gap is. That's not you fixing it all by yourself. That's not you working harder at it by yourself, because that's not going to be the solution. So there's not an unlimited amount of gaps for agents. There's usually only a few, and I'm happy to have those conversations with people to help identify the gap. We're not the solution for every realtor, but for the ones that we are,
Yeah.
I'm very confident to say that we change their business um, for the better, and as long as they're going to stay in the space, their entire business will be better because of the things that we're doing in it. And it's exciting. It's great to be able to be that partner in that with people who have struggled with this for a long time. And lastly, it is to understand that this challenge that we're in is an opportunity.
Mm.
If I'm a realtor that I've been in the business 5, 10, 15 years and I've never built systems, why? Well, I never needed to. And that very likely meant I didn't hit my potential. I may not have, most agents are not completely financially secure to retire, or at least, if not retire, live a life making choices by passion instead of finances.
Yeah.
Um, so we have to see this as an opportunity. This discomfort that we're in right now, without this, we wouldn't be willing to make change in our business. So just figure out what that change needs to be. Don't do the minimum amount of change that's required. Since you got to change it, let's change it so that you can live the life that you want. You can build the business you want. And
Uh,
and then you're going to be able to be on a podcast in the future and say that that the market shift in 2024-25 changed your business, and that's why you get to live this amazing life today.
yeah, I love it. This is very exciting for agents. I can see that. So before we let you go today, what is the next quarter looking like for you, or the end of the year? Like we're halfway through the year, almost.
Well, I mean, anybody that says that they can predict what the market's going to look like, I've always been,
No.
unless you own an island or you're, a billionaire, I'm pretty sure you can't predict things, because if you could, you'd have those things. So I don't know what the market's going to do. I do know that the benefit of transacting and running real estate in Southern Ontario is that we still live in abundance. In Treb, there are still thousands and thousands of transactions that happen every month
No.
in this bad market. And most agents I know aren't looking for thousands of transactions. They're looking for, a single digit or double digit per month.
20, 30, I don't know. Yeah, 10.
And that's completely achievable.
Hmm.
So I'm really excited. I'm really excited in this really kind of shift in our focus, which is let's just help people get over the speed bumps in their business so that they can go faster again. So if the market continues the way it is, we're going to continue to grow and help more agents implement the systems they've never had. If the market grows and, the politics and governments figure some stuff out, then that's going to be, take a little bit of pressure off everybody,
Yeah.
and everybody can be a little bit happier. Real estate, realtors can do really well and build incredibly big businesses in bad markets.
Mm.
Just because everybody's not happy in real estate doesn't mean that you can't have all the business that you need.
Yeah.
So it is just a lot nicer when everybody's
everybody's
happier.
happy.
So either way, we're going to focus on helping agents with the systems so that they can have the business they want, so they can live the life they want.
Love it. Love it. Building a legacy.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. So where do we find you? What's your brokerage? Tell us more.
So my brokerage is Keller Williams Co-Elevation. We are on Bloor West, right across from High Park. And we have agents in the office all over Ontario. We have agents. We have one of the largest teams in Canada that operate up in Midland. I have agents in the office that are in North Bay. I have agents in St. Catharines, East End, West End.
All over.
This world that we live in, which is mostly virtual, as we're doing this right now,
Yeah.
we can implement and support agents pretty much wherever they are. Although I do prefer to see agents.
Yeah, the one on the face-to-face interaction.
Absolutely, yeah.
The human part of your beginning of your career as a nurse, the touchy-feely
Exactly.
people person, full circle.
So that's where my office is. My contact information, I imagine, will be tied to this in some way.
Yeah. Awesome.
There's no harm in having a conversation, and hopefully you've realized that I'm I'm going to tell people the way it is, and the people that are joining our office and we're changing their lives, it's just it's so much fun to be doing this with them. And for people that this isn't a good fit for, I try to direct them into a solution or a who that could be that for them, because it doesn't matter what brokerage or brand or anything that we work in this industry. We all work incredibly hard if we're successful, and we deserve to have the benefits of that as well. So, that's what I'm going to be doing.
So true. So true. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing all of this today. I'm sure lots of agents will get excited by what you have to offer and then see the potential for themselves.
Thank you so much, Maude.
Thank you for tuning in to Sold Right Away. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're ready to take your business to the next level, check out Sold Right Away for more resources and support. Until then, keep winning and keep closing.